Welcome to Amy Liz Harrison's podcast, Eternally Amy, a mum of eight's journey from jail to joy. A Gen Xer who overcame her struggle with alcohol to become a best-selling author and mental health advocate. She shares stories of hope and offers ideas for others struggling with mental health challenges, spirituality, ADHD, or maybe just family, travel, and logistics. One thing is for sure, you'll leave with something to chew on. And now, here's your host, Amy Liz Harrison, with your mystery meat sandwich.
Hey, greetings, compadres. Okay. You guys, you know that I love this group that I belong to called the Sober Curator. And I have met my two lovely guests on or through the Sober Curator. They are also Sober Curators. Shout out, Elise Bryson. We love you. Anyways, that was a sidebar. Okay, so these two ladies are doing some fantastic work, and I cannot wait for them to tell you about it. But first, a little random personal note from me about both of them as individuals. So Tamar, I met at Recovery Day, the Merit and Recovery Day last year. And our Sober Curator booth was set up kind of at the end of this big breezeway, I'm going to call it. Mm-hmm. And we were trying to find some t-shirts that we were promised, these free t-shirts. And I swear, they were the most elusive things ever. We were like, how come everybody else is finding these t-shirts without an issue? And we just had like a problem for some reason. So I just remember we had to play Nancy Drew trying to figure this all out. And we got them because we have a picture in them. So that's that. I don't remember how we found them in the end.
Yeah.
But I mean, it worked out. And then Lane, okay, so this is great. This is so recent. This is hot off the press. So like 2 weeks ago, I'm on the rental car bus at LAX, and my daughter and I are like getting our stuff, in like full airport mode, like getting off the bus with our stuff and getting all situated. And I hear this Amy, and I look up, and here is this blonde beauty in these sunglasses and looking all chic and like cosmopolitan. And I'm like just kind of sweating and just like disheveled. And I'm like, what? Anyway, surprise, it's Lane. And she's like, hi, I just wanted to say hi. And I got to go. And boom, she is gone and takes off at a very impressive pace, by the way. We had to like traipse through like a construction site to get to the other side of LAX because of construction. We got dumped off at a random place and we had to get to the terminal. And it was like this tornado, this blaze of beauty just was here and then was gone. And I was like, whoa, what happened? I loved it. And so anyway, it was a pleasure to bump into her that day. And it is a pleasure to have both of these ladies here today on the Eternally Amy podcast. And so I'm going to give you a little bit of a bio, and then I'm going to just, start chatting with them because you want to hear from them and not from me because they're doing some incredible things. So Tamar and Lane run the Laughing Without Liquor podcast. And so they are co-hosts, okay? They have over 36 years of continuous sobriety. What? And they are living in recovery from drugs, booze, and Snicker bars. Tamar and Lane share the truth on addiction and more. They're on a mission to empower women and to help them live their best lives through laughter and self-preservation. And first of all, I have to say that I'm jealous that you guys are in recovery from Snicker bars because I'm not there yet, unfortunately. Sadly, I'm like in active addiction on anything chocolate or junk food. So that's just confession time. It is what it is. So let me tell you a little bit about their creds, guys. Tamar is a visionary coach. She's a certified neurochange master practitioner, performance consultant, podcast host, and author. She's been sober for over a decade and has dedicated her life to empowering women to master their minds so they can overcome their limiting beliefs and create a life so good for themselves they never want to go back to their old way of living. Tamar offers both one-on-one and group coaching using the NeuroChange method. And this is a new brain and mind change process. So she'll tell you a little bit about that maybe. Lane supports Gen X women, yes, in finding gratitude and grace over in Living Without Liquor on the podcast, where she teaches women how to have a kick-ass, purpose-filled life without stressing about everything. Love that. She has a practical approach to a happier, more fulfilling life. And Lane is also, she's a certified nutritionist. She is a hypnotherapist. She is a human potential coach. And she is a teacher and more. I know she does meditation. She's on Insight Timer. You can follow her there. I know that. And so welcome, gang. I'm so glad you're here. Like, I'm pumped. And I think I'm just going to jump right in, and I would love to hear what's the latest and greatest with the Laughing Without Liquor podcast, because I want to hear what you guys are up to specifically for Gen X women, because this is a thing right now. I have a lot of friends who, if they're not sober, they're like sober curious right now. And I think they're afraid they're not going to have any fun in recovery.
And it's so the opposite. I mean, I've never had this much fun ever. And the best part is you remember all the fun.
Right?
Yeah. And thank you for the warm welcome, Amy. It's so fun to be here. I mean, last year, I remember that. And we finally did find our t-shirts. And it was an amazing day.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Laughing Without Liquor, it's actually, we just recently rebranded because although Lane and I live in long-term recovery, we tend to attract a lot of women that, want to put down the wine, mothers, just like you said, people who are sober curious. And, we did a field trip recently to Venice Beach, California, and we had the best time. And so we wanted to speak to everybody, all the mothers, all the women out there that are struggling and they're stuck and they don't know how to have fun anymore without adding, wine or whatever their drink of choice is. And so we thought, hey, that's a pretty witty topic there. And it's just, we're going to teach people how to have a blast without the booze, basically.
I love it so much. And, one thing I was going to say about that is that I remember being super afraid when I got sober that people weren't going to accept me for just who I was. And I didn't know really who I was anymore anyway, or who I would become. And so that awkward fragility was really tough to just kind of swallow and just kind of like, okay, what am I doing? And it was so debilitating almost. And what I didn't realize is by being in process, like that's what people wanted. They wanted my authentic self to just kind of be figuring it out and that was okay. Can you guys share a little bit? I was wondering about your personal stories about how you got sober, as much or as little as you would like.
Absolutely. I can start it off. So I've been sober for almost 11 years now. And, I started drinking at 14 and I had a really good upbringing. And the only reason I share that is there seems to be this stigma that anybody who falls into the category of being an alcoholic must have had a traumatic childhood. And for me, that wasn't the case. It was genetics played a role in it. I have a lot of family members that struggle with addiction, but I started drinking because I was uncomfortable with my emotions and I didn't feel like I fit into the world. And for me, alcohol wasn't enough. It progressed. I got into some very, very dark spots in my 20s. Then, of course, I thought, well, getting married will fix it all. So, I did the things that society tells us we should do that will make us happy, getting all those external things like, the husband, the home, the nice car. And I did all that stuff. And yet I felt probably the most miserable I'd ever felt in my entire life. And around 36 years old, I just kind of hit my spiritual bottom. I had hit many physical bottoms throughout my 22-year career, but I hit my spiritual bottom because although I had all the stuff that I thought would make me happy, I was depressed. I was financially bankrupt. I was very unhealthy, very overweight. And I just didn't want to live anymore. And I just remember sitting on the floor with a bottle of pills one day. My little pug, Rudy, was sitting there looking at me in that little sideways stare that they do. And I was sobbing, looking down at him. And I got this moment of divine intervention where it was like, Tamar, what are you doing? Right. And I was not religious. I didn't grow up religious or anything. But, for me, I heard my higher power in that moment. And although I didn't get sober right away, it took me about 6 months because I went full on into, health and fitness and worked out 7 days a week and ate chicken, broccoli, and rice for the next year. Because why wouldn't I? Right.
Right.
I was an alcoholic, but that's kind of the start of my journey and, where it took me.
Okay. How about you, Lane? What led you to embark on your own recovery journey?
First off, Amy, I love you.
I love you too.
It was so fantastic just seeing you at the airport. I was like, oh my God, there's Amy. Oh my God, what is she doing here? She's like, it was so refreshing. And I'm so glad that you didn't freak out and be like, who the heck is this broad?
No.
It was awesome.
Love you too.
And thanks for having us on the show. I love being a part of the Sober Curator and having met you and being a part of this whole world of sober life. It's kind of great, there is no regret for me for putting down a drink and a Snickers bar. It's been 20 something years since I've had a Snickers bar. And it really kind of blows my mind. I think it's only been 21 years since I've had a Snickers bar, but I haven't had a drink or a drug or a pill or a line of cocaine in 26 years. And I don't say that like, check me out, that's super cool. I say that because it's possible. It's possible. I love drinking. I really do. I drank because I wanted to fit in. I wanted to be a part of. I wanted to be cool. It was cool to drink. It was cool to use. It was cool to be different. And, over time, by the time I was in my late 20s, mid 20s, it was very lonely and isolating. And I lived in Hollywood and, I was doing really well career professionally. I had a huge house in the Hollywood Hills. I had all this stuff. I had a big house and a pedigree dog and a couple of cars and 5 closets. I really had a life. But what I didn't have was I didn't have clarity of mind. I didn't have peace in my heart. I didn't have the sense of self-worth. I didn't know how to answer questions. I remember a designer looking at me, asking me a question. I was like, huh? What? And it was literally like, when was the last time you went to the store? And I could not answer her, So when I put down the drink, really, it was a miracle. I can't see anything else around it because I didn't plan on putting down a drink. I didn't plan on stopping. That wasn't my plan, but it just happened. And, throughout the last 26 years, there's been, trials and tribulations because I live in life. I live in the present moment. And the present moment can be really messed up, 9/11 hit. And I was like, whoa, what just happened? I was stone cold sober with 9/11. All the different presidents, sober, all the chaos, the fires, the war, like sober, giving birth, sober, going to the playgrounds, sober, right? No sippy cups of wine, sober. It's just been a wild ride, and I'm so grateful that I haven't picked up because I don't want to disturb the life that I have or disrupt it. So I just kind of do, this one, this daily practice to stay in that present moment and to remember why I want to be sober. Yeah.
I love it. the present moment and peace, right? Like those are two things I heard you say, and such a big deal because I didn't have those when I rolled in here. I mean,
right?
not at all. So then as a duo, how have you guys, I mean, you guys have not opposite, I shouldn't use that word. You both have a lot of strengths that complement each other. And so how did you guys decide, hey, let's get together and let's present this to women?
I think there's something about, in any space that you get into, there's the nutrition space, there's the coaching space. It's like, look at me, I'm the best. I'm going to teach you everything. And I don't like that. I don't like that. I'm really into collaboration, partnership. Let's do it together. That's why I think the Sober Curator is so magical, because we're all going towards the same thing. And when I met Tamar a couple years ago, she was doing the solo summits. Remember, Tamar? The summit.
I'll never forget that.
That summit. It was like, it was putting her under the ground because she was doing it by herself. And I thought, wow, it's a lot of work. It's not cool. and I remember her saying, nobody's doing anything. And I just thought, well, we can do it together. Like, why don't we join forces? Like, because the people who are going to be attracted to me are going to be attracted to me. The people who are going to be attracted to her are going to be attracted to her. But we can do double work, right? We can elevate our voices if we come together. Like, we're here on this planet to do good work. We're here to support women in living their best life. So if there's more of us, if there's 3 of us, if there's 4 of us, then we can reach more women in living their best life. So I think that's why, Tamar, am I wrong? Like, that's why we join forces. You maybe different perspective from you.
No, absolutely. And it just goes to show you that this space, like the sober space, the alcohol-free space, is, it was actually a mutual friend of ours who was my first podcast coach that had said, hey, Tamar, you got to meet Lane. She's sober too. And so he connected us, and right away we totally hit it off. Lane had asked me to come and join her on Clubhouse. And then of course I had the summit, and we just had so many things that complemented each other. And I mean, I'm 11 years in, I still feel like a newbie because, the farther I go, the more I learn. So it's really the less I know. I realize the less I know. And
True.
Lane was in, her, I think 25th at the time year. And it was perfect because, I could look up to her as well and kind of say, okay, what's going on here? She's like, oh yeah, what year are you in? And we can talk that way. Because that's how it works when you live a sober life is, oh yeah, that's where you're at. So I think for the show, it allows people to, relate to maybe their mid 10-year kind of mark, and also long-term, and that it's not easy all the time. And it gives 2 different perspectives, which I think is super cool.
Yeah, that's incredible too, because some of the things that you mentioned, Lane, it's like, yeah, I can't imagine if I was on the playground with no sippy cups of wine. At least I can't imagine it with my first 4. So that was my whole gig, And Tamar and I have similar lengths of sobriety. And so it's always so powerful to hear from somebody who's just a little bit further down the road, because you can there's so many nuggets of truth and power that you can get from somebody else. And what I heard you guys saying, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was like, connection and collaboration, basically over competition, that it's such a better space to be in when we join forces and when we let our strength, be together and not trying to like jump over each other and, get to the top of the heap. And I just think that's lovely.
It doesn't make sense to me when I don't understand why people don't collaborate if we're all on the same mission to help people. I can't wrap my head around it. So more collaboration is better. Maybe that's an age thing too.
Yeah.
Maybe, like the more mature that I've gotten, because in my young 20s, maybe I wasn't so, maybe, I don't know. I don't know.
I think too, I was saying to somebody the other day, we were talking about having seniors in high school, and I said, yeah, it's a lot like when they were newborns, it's like you get this weird thing happening where people will talk to you and they'll be like, oh, so where's so-and-so going to school? Like, first of all, assuming your kid is going to college. So there's that.
Right.
And then, right. And then it's like, oh, well, where have they done SAT prep or whatever?
Oh,
and that's secondly, assuming that they're taking the SATs. And then every little thing. And it's like when they were little, the same stuff, right? Are you breastfeeding or formula feeding? Are you using cloth diapers or are you using disposable?
Right.
And it's like always this one-upping thing. Whereas like, I mean, I hate to point this out, but for my husband, I'll say, because I can speak for him on this, I know, is that guys, they think we have shit what other guys are doing.
No.
There's like, oh, you formula feed? Yeah, cool, dude. Cool. Like they don't care. And I feel like the work that you both are doing really cultivates that spirit of supporting each other and, supporting women who listen to your podcast, take your courses, get your coaching services. And so I think it's fantastic. Is there like a certain process that you guys have that you take women through, or is it more of like a journey, just a journey of self-exploration?
I think that's it right there. It's that exploration. Oftentimes it's women who are feeling really stuck in their life with like what's next in their life. Where do they want to go? Feeling stuck. And whether that's in their health or whether that's in their career or whether that's being a mother and like the next phase, the next transition, they listen to the podcast. I mean, we give so much information, Tamar. I was listening the other day. I was like, we give so much on our podcast, just how to thrive in a life of recovery and how to meet the challenges, because, there's going to be health challenges. We're not getting younger in our life, and the world that we live in, there's a lot of obstacles, right? And I'll just keep it to the health space, right? Diabetes growing by leaps and bounds, cardiovascular disease growing by leaps and bounds. Women are just kind of falling apart in that part of their world, that life. And so a lot of the work that I do will help them kind of calm down the central nervous system, because if the central nervous system isn't calm, then the body can't heal. So I start there. I look at their DNA and just kind of build a program around supporting them coming back to themselves, so they can live with grace, right? Again, at longevity, we're not getting younger here, people. Like, I don't know about you, Amy, but I'm starting to have wrinkles. Like, no, it's like, it's a fact of life.
Yeah.
And I am like, I want to just kind of let them soften.
Right. Well, and I'm having trouble. I don't know about you guys. This is my current challenge. Getting dressed in the morning takes forever now. Like, I totally want to adopt the Steve Jobs turtleneck and jeans mentality, because I don't know, just things are changing.
Oh my God.
Right? Like my body is just changing.
Yes.
And my mindset is really screwed up, I've noticed, because I will get irritated about that. And I'll be like, man, and I'll look at my husband, like he'll get ready to go out, to a work event. And he's like, I'm already in the bathroom for like an hour and a half, just, trying stuff on and trying to get in my Spanx and whatever and doing my hair and like blah. And then he comes up, puts on the tuxedo, kind of goes like this through his hair. And he's like, oh, okay, I'll see you downstairs when you're ready. Like literally he's done. And I was really resentful. Like, I'm not going to lie. I went through this weird season where I was super resentful about it. And then I thought, you know what, though? Yay for him. Because, I mean, if we had two of us doing that, I mean, it would be a shit show. We'd never get out of the house. And also, the other thing about it is, of course, it parallels my life, right? Like, I'm struggling figuring out what to wear every day. And yet at the same time, when I, shut down and I'm like, well, I just have to figure this out. I'm just going to wear the Steve Jobs turtleneck and jeans. While that is smart and efficient, yes, it also doesn't allow me an opportunity to love and accept my body and just go, okay, it's doing this today, so I'm going to wear this. Does that make sense? Like, I'm just not being
100%.
open-minded. Yeah.
Totally.
100%. And I think there's something about, awareness, like, oh, I'm in this next phase of my life where I have a uniform and it's okay.
Yeah.
Right. I wear the same not the same pair, but the same socks every day. I used to wear colorful like socks that match my shirt and I got all crazy with it. Now I'm like, okay, it's either going to be black, cream, white, or gray. Boom. I want to do less thinking about those things in my life right now because I want to put more thinking into, learning and expanding my consciousness and my awareness.
Yes.
I don't want to get stuck in the kind of the mundane things that used to be really important to me. It used to be super. We were just talking about this the other day, Tamar, right? The creativity of getting dressed and being fashionable.
Yep.
Like, well, I can use that. I can use that energy, that brain power to do something else.
Well, and I just went and bought a whole bunch of super dry attire.
Yes. Super dry.
Because people ask me, it has nothing to do with being sober. But I mean, when I'm wearing it in the sober community, they think it's pretty funny. And I love to make people laugh, whether it's with what I wear or what I say. And so I just went and bought a whole bunch of the t-shirts. I even bought a pair of shoes and, a few hoodies, and I just rock those out. And I don't, because I've always been kind of a bit of a tomboy, I don't wear makeup, which probably saves me quite a bit of time.
A lot.
And yeah, so I want to get on to other things during my day. So
I love it because when we're making those choices, right, it's like we have more space in our day for the things that we value, love, cultivate as part of who we are, and that, are basically seeds that we're sowing towards that side of ourselves, right? And I have to know about the super dry. Is that a clothing line or is that like for like sweatiness or like what?
They do have athletic apparel. But yeah, it's just a clothing line. They make bags and shoes and everything. And, I agree that, there's times where we can get dressed up and present ourselves outside to make ourselves feel good. Because I know that when I dress up, I do feel good. But for me, it's, every morning have to have a shower, right? Have to dry my hair. It doesn't do a lot, but I still need to make sure that I put myself together. So when I go out, but yeah, I like to rock the super dry apparel and, once in a while I'll dress up.
Can you guys both speak to, recovery can be a messy, non-linear journey, right? Can you speak to a time in your recovery where it was just challenging and what you did, what tools you used maybe to try and get out of that, or maybe not get out of it, but get through it?
I would have to say that, I've gone through a few periods throughout my sobriety where I've had these lulls or challenging times, but the last 2 years have been the absolute hardest or most challenging times in my recovery. I've lost people. I, ended a relationship, came to terms with my sexuality. A relationship went very sideways, and it was just one thing after another. And it's still like I've changed a lot over the last couple of years, and change can be incredibly painful. But I think I'm very fortunate because I have, gotten sober through a 12-step program. So I'm always in the work. I have the tools. 12 steps is one of them, which I'm doing right now. I have my circle of women that when things get hard, I reach out and I tell them I'm not okay right now. My head is not on straight. But I think for me, it's the going back to the basics and doing the things that first got me sober and has kept me sober, because you hear so often that people let up on that stuff. And I too, in the beginning, I'm like, oh, great, this is a course I get to graduate. And then I'm either going to be able to drink like normal people, or, I'm just going to be healed. But it's right there. And I act out in my food, unfortunately. I almost went to go get a Frappuccino the other day because I was angry. And well, my higher power came around and said, no, we're breaking that Frap machine for you. So I couldn't get that Frappuccino. But, what did I do after in that moment? I laughed, first of all, because I'm like, seriously, it was a hot day. I wanted the Frappuccino. But I called a friend and said, you wouldn't believe what I just did. Like, this is, so I know to reach out. And that's why I think community is so incredibly important. And we're very fortunate for those of us who are in recovery, because we build that community, right? People get when we're not thinking straight. They're like, I know what you mean. I've been there. And I think it's such a gift being able to be vulnerable and surround yourself with people who will actually hold space for you and listen.
So good.
So, Amy, you're asking about the challenges, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the tools that I've used. Yeah. So I think, what I was saying earlier, it's like life is challenging, right? I have a 13-year-old. He's neurodivergent. I have a kid. That right there. Let's just hard stop right there. Having a kid, challenging. Having a husband, challenging. Having a career, challenging. Like, I really like my, perfect expression is like laying on the beach. Like I just want to be on the beach, take in the sun. I don't want to do anything, but life is all around me and I have to participate. And so over the years, I've had the opportunity to explore Buddhism and mindfulness and all kinds of transcendental types of experiences to kind of open up my very rigid thinking. Like I just want to live on the beach. Leave me alone, right? Like that's where I want to be. But because I'm in this world and I have to play with others and be nice, I have to have a shift every single day. And that shift comes from practicing. And my practice is about an hour long every morning. It's my kind of prayer and meditation time. I found this probably now, oh God. I mean, it's always been with me since day one of my recovery, but I really kind of deepened it. I want to say my son was like 5 or 6, so maybe 8 years ago, where I really had to get serious about, I need this inner resource to feel it, to know that it is with me and I'm not going to fail, even though I'm not on the beach, right? I need to feel like I'm on the beach, even when my kid's having a tantrum or, the cappuccino machine is broken. like I really have to feel that presence and power, or I just go dark. And I have called Tamar and said, I am dark. You just need to talk to me right now. So having that sense of community with my friends, being plugged into a group of women is an absolute for me. Otherwise, just lock me up. Like I'm not going to be a very good human. So cultivating that practice has been the number one important thing in my life.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you so much. When you were talking, I was thinking about this thing that keeps presenting itself to me, which I'm choosing to call the cognitive load that we carry as women. You know what I mean? Like that whole it's just a lot because not only do we have so many plates spinning, but we have a lot of things on each plate that require thought and reminders, and like they have to constantly kind of be on those back burners and not totally forgotten and also not consuming us so that we don't have space in our brain for all of those other things. It's almost like going and eating like tapas or something. Like there's all these little things, but they're on this big plate and we're juggling like 75,000 of them, right? And I think that the reason that's been speaking to me so much is that that's exhausting. Like the whole cognitive load is exhausting. And, you know, it's like that phone call that you make that you need somebody else to get back to you with this one piece of information because you can't move forward on this piece until you have that piece of information. You know what I mean? Just that. Do you guys ever struggle with that?
It's a lot.
Yeah, a lot. And, you know, one other thing I wanted to mention is that purpose. I do a lot of vision planning with clients and help them see what they can't see. I feel like when I discovered my purpose, first of all, which is really helping other women see what they can't see and creating that life for themselves.
And she's so good at it. It's crazy.
Amazing.
It's like she's like the psychic eye or something. Just
I love it.
Thank you, Lane.
Part of the neurochange method? Is this part of it?
No,
Okay.
no, it's her own thing.
It's
no,
before.
Tamar, you
Okay.
be quiet. It is your thing. You have that just freaking innate ability, just like bullseye. Like you see it.
Yes, I do see it. I had to see it for myself first, though.
Yeah, you
But
did.
getting through the hard times, having a sense of purpose and actually doing what made me happy filled my cup up. Because I think, you know, as women, we're always trying to serve other people, right? That's how a lot of us have been raised without taking our own needs into consideration. And that's why Lane and I talk about, instead of self-care, self-preservation, because eventually your tank is going to be empty, right? If you're just give. When I discovered my purpose and I learned what I love to do, I think that helped keep me sober. That brought me to a new level in my recovery where I actually loved getting up every morning. You know, right now I feel like I'm trudging through the muck, but guess what? Every day I love to wake up and do what we do because so many cool things are happening as well right now. And I thank my purpose, you know, learning what it is that lights me up in life. And we have to start doing things for ourselves, because if we do what we love, we can be better partners. We can be better parents. You know, and I think we forget that sometimes, right? I mean, I don't know a mother who doesn't drive their kids around everywhere and is incredibly busy. I mean, Amy, I can't even imagine, you know, but we have to fill our cups up. We have to do what we love to do. And laughter is a big part of that, right? So when Lane and I picked out the name for the new podcast, it's like laughing without liquor.
Yeah. And, you know, the thing about laughter, too, that I had to come to grips with is laughing at myself. Like, really, the whole Rule 62, you don't take yourself too seriously thing. There are times, you guys, where I become super emo for some reason. And I'm just like, oh my God. Like, this is the biggest deal ever. And like, everybody needs to get on board with this. And then I'm like, really? Because when I stand back and look at it, okay, I mean, I'm alive today. You know, I have a defibrillator in my heart from a virus I had like a couple of years ago, not COVID. And it's just this crazy. I love that you mentioned the physical health too, because that's another thing that as women, a lot of times we can just put on the shelf like, oh, well, I'm going to start that Pilates with ankle weights video on Monday. You know what I mean? And it's like, no, I won't.
Too much.
And I think that's one of the cool things about what Lane does and what I do is, I'm even utilizing what Lane does all the time. I'm like, okay, Lane, I need help with this area with the DNA. Food is something that I've struggled with. I don't crave a drink anymore. I know that I want this sober life, but I was unable to lose weight for a while. And so Lane did my DNA and we've been talking about it. And I now know the things that I need to eat and I need to incorporate that are for me, because I am like the fad diet queen, right? I'm like, sign me up. That'll what? That'll make me lose 20 pounds in a week. Sign me up for that.
Yep.
And I can't do that anymore. And so I figured out what I could eat, what I had to eliminate, what I had to add. And most of it actually was adding to my diet because I wasn't getting what I needed. So that's why, again, that self-preservation, I want to live for a long time.
A long time.
A long time. And then I help women see that vision for themselves so they can actually wake up in the morning excited. So now they've got the blueprint, they have the vision, and I mean, the possibilities are endless.
I love that, because you need to know when you go on a road trip, you need to kind of know the destination, right? If you're going to actually get there, you're not probably just going to get there by some circuitous, loosey-goosey, like, well, we'll wing it. So, Lane, can you tell us a little bit about the DNA?
I can't believe that I am in this phase of my life, and I'm so curious. I'm such a curious kid. I started like investigating DNA when my son was born, because that's when the genomic project was just starting. And my husband said, should we check it out? What do you think? And I said, yes, let's do it. I've been a biohacker for 26 years. Look at that. And so I've been really curious about the human body, right? I've just like, what's going on here? So it makes me laugh that now this is what I do with people is I help them investigate their body. We have, one blueprint, this DNA, it's not going to change, or it can change depending on your environment or how you treat yourself. But, you have this set of genes and they're going to turn on or turn off. They're going to regulate or not regulate. They're going to be active or not active. And they're going to create your longevity. And I talk about longevity because, again, we're not getting any younger. We're aging forward. So when I look at someone's DNA, I can say, oh, well, the NQO1 is not on right now, but we can get it to turn on, or we can help support it to turn on if we take these actions. And then once the NQO1 is on, that's going to help you start detoxifying your body, right? Because if you're not detoxifying your body, you're actually getting older quicker. I don't want you to get older quicker. I want you to kind of start aging backwards. And so just working with your DNA, it's your unique blueprint. So you have your unique set of ingredients, so to speak, to put into your body. So, with Tamar, chicken breast every day is not going to help. Like, she was doing rice, chicken breast, and broccoli.
The problem.
Which could be good for somebody, but for her, like, she needs more things than that. She really needs a variety of green leafy vegetables. She really needs fish in her diet. Right. So we had to kind of assess, and that's what I do is I assess, like, what do your genes need to give you the healthiest functioning body so you can be the best you can be, right? The best mom, the best human, the best partner in your world. Because when your genes are tired and you have oxidative stress, because we live in such a time right now where everything is a toxin, everything. Our water, toxic. Beauty products, toxic. The household that we live in, like, people might be thinking, oh God, Lane is such an extremist. But we have this wonderful website called the Environmental Working Group. If you're not familiar with it, you can plug in like anything into that and it will spit out some information of like what the toxicity is. Our skin, our lungs are breathing and taking in all of that all day long. So I try to just educate and invite people to become more aware inside their body. We only get one body here. I mean, it's on this planet during this life, right? We could go somewhere else, maybe. I don't know. Do you believe in the afterlife? I don't know. But while we're here, we have this set of genes, and why not optimize them? Why not have them functioning at their highest capacity?
Totally. A couple of years ago, I was at spring training in Arizona, and there was a woman there who I kind of got to know over the weekend that we were there, and she was in her 80s. This lady walked everywhere. I could not believe it. I mean, I was like, I was planning on chilling, and I was like just ready to just like loaf around by the pool. And this lady, every time I saw her, she had her shoes on, she had her like sun visor on, and she was walking. And she told me that she had survived cancer twice. And the big deal for her was like a body at rest was no good. Like that's what she kept saying. Body at rest is no good. And that was her, kind of mentality on, her mental space, her physical space. And I just, it's kind of one of those things that you remember. And it's kind of like, yeah,
she has a point. She
Right?
totally has a point. I mean, think about, with COVID.
Yeah.
Everybody sat around for 2 years and did a whole lot of nothing. And bodies became, well, they aged in those 2 years.
Yeah.
Being active, moving your body is so good for longevity. Use it or lose it.
Right. It's true. I think too, even like just that, I mean, my husband and I during COVID, like every afternoon, we would take a walk down to the water, whether we had time for it or not, and of course, the rest of the day was kind of these back to back, like Zoom meetings or school, helping kids with school. There was something about that simple walk to just clear our mind and clear our head and get some oxygen going. And it was meaningful for sure.
So important.
Walks are magical. But, the cool part about learning my DNA recently was that I also learned that I don't allow for recovery. So when I exercise, I'm all in. I'm going to do it every day. I'm going to work out hard. I'm going to lift weights. But I learned that I actually need that full day off of rest. And so it just kind of goes to show you that, I can go for a light walk or, I can do things like that. But understanding your body, because I could crash and burn from doing too much, which is how I think. And I think a lot of women, right, when they're like, okay, January 1st, I got to get to the gym. I'm going to go every day. It's healthy to know what your body requires.
And I think that's something else with what you're saying, like knowing what your body requires. And Tamar, you said it earlier, fad diets, right? Or just not fad. That's probably not the right word, but there's the keto, the Atkins, right? There's the carnivore, like there's so many different ways, but your genetic profile will tell you what you can and can't do. I've had several women say, oh, I've been doing keto and I can't lose weight. What's the problem here? Well, actually, you should not be. That's like the last thing that you should be doing. Like that's going to hurt you. And you just aged yourself by 10 years. So just understanding what your genetic profile will, again, support you in living your best life.
That's what we want.
Yes.
I mean, I couldn't figure out why the Richard Simmons Deal-A-Meal, you guys don't remember that, do you? Do you remember that? The Deal-A-Meal? It was like this folio, yes? And you'd move like your protein here and your fats here. So do you get people's, do you do like a DNA sample and then you get okay.
Yeah. So typically, it's a little cheek swab, send it in, and then I get back a pretty robust report. And then I go through the report.
Knowledge is power, right?
100%.
Oh my goodness. I feel like I need to maybe sign up for that. That's incredible. Because otherwise you're sort of banging your head against a wall a little bit. Like, at least, yeah, I would.
That's exactly it. That is exactly it. It's like, why can't I lose this weight? How come I'm not sleeping at night? Why does my skin keep breaking out? Why is my stomach hurt all the time? Why do I have headaches all the time? Right? All of that information is in this beautiful profile. That is you. See, I get so like giddy and fired up.
He does.
I love it. You truly found, your passion and purpose, which is amazing.
Mm.
I got a question for you guys. I know we're getting like kind of ready to wrap up, but I just need to know, how do you get women to, I'm going to say, value themselves? And what I mean by that is, let's say now you have the knowledge, right? But then you wake up and it's sort of like, oh man, today I'm just going to start the day with a Pop-Tart because, how do you get that mental shift of giving yourself permission to put yourself on the map and prioritize yourself, and to really realize that, no, I am going to be better to all these other entities that I'm a part of when I care for myself and, put towards that self-preservation?
For myself, when I work with clients, I kind of, depending on where they are, I get them to look back at everything they've overcome, because a lot of times when we have these limiting beliefs that, this is not going to be possible for me, or this is going to be too difficult, it's probably because we faced something in the past that was extremely challenging and we weren't able to overcome it, or we weren't willing to look for ways to overcome it. Because I've learned that, mistakes are opportunities, and it's just a way to go, okay, well, that didn't work. And I have plenty of, oh, that didn't work, or that went sideways in my life that I could learn from. But we're so hard on ourselves that when you get women to stop and basically turn around, right, or write a list of everything you've ever overcome in your life, it's kind of like, okay, actually, that's kind of, I feel, starts that empowerment process, which they definitely need. And then by helping them create that vision of what is it that you really want, it kind of creates this pulling power, right? And they start doing things that align with that, purpose. I get them to write down, what are things that you love? What are you good at? I get them to actually reach out to people they know and ask them, what do you think I'm good at, to see if those things align? And then what does the world need more of? And I think that can help create that spark that'll eventually get the fire going. Because once they try something and they accomplish it, then it's like, okay, because that gives you proof. And I think oftentimes we need that proof that something is possible. So just start off with small incremental changes.
And for me, in the work that I do, there's hypnosis and daily affirmations. So I'll usually record something for them and specific to them and have them listen to that. Because otherwise they're going to sit down and have that Pop-Tart every day. Why not? It's there. Right. And people do not change. People are, we are so resistant to change. Like, we have to be so broken or at that level of I need to change or I am going to die. It really has to be at that place. That's what I discovered, at least. And if somebody's not there, that Pop-Tart is going to sing to them every day and invite them in to chomp, chomp, chomp that. So I think again, going back to creating a practice, giving them daily affirmation, hypnosis, just starts to change that network in their brain where they're not reaching for it. It's like, oh, I'll just have the apple instead, right? And that kind of gets embedded into that subconscious place. Like, oh, apples are going to be my first choice now.
It's so true. And it's so good that you guys have given some practical tools. I think a lot of times, and I appreciate that so much, because I think a lot of times, we hear these kinds of things, but we're like, but how do I do that? And so these are practical things that like women can start today, literally today to do. And that just is such an inspiring feeling to be able to start to change that trajectory now, and not on Monday or not on, after the 4th of July when I get to have Uncle Ted's brisket or whatever it is, And so I appreciate that because these are all practical things and practical ways that we can begin to chip away and reveal, that new person who was there all along, who just needed a little bit of come on out.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So this has felt like 5 minutes to me and not an hour. But can you guys, as we wrap up, I want to definitely ask where people can find you to follow you. But also, is there any last thing you'd like to share? It's okay if not, because you've shared so much. But yeah, any last final thoughts?
What comes to mind for me is just if somebody's listening and they're in that place that they're stuck, is you're capable of so much more than you think. It still blows me away, in the last 3 years, what I've been able to accomplish as a result to being curious, to being open-minded, and to understand that I could actually create the life that I wanted. And I still have to pinch myself sometimes. So yeah, you're capable.
I love it.
Absolutely capable. And you have the permission. You have the permission to step outside the box that you live in, right? We all live in a box. It could be a small box, a large box, a medium box, but you can live outside the lines of that box and enjoy your life in a new way. So give yourself permission.
Powerful. Thank you. So powerful. And where can people find you?
Laughing without liquor, laughing without liquor.
And it helps if you say it like that.
Yeah, right. Laughing without liquor.com.
We had actually considered, because of, Lane can pull off a jingle. We had considered having the new intro with Lane, but she's like, no. I'm still going to push forward in the future.
Well, I would say a close second to Lane, who's clearly the obvious first choice for the jingle. But, you can always commission Elise and I to do a Sound of Music type rendition.
I heard that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's always available as a second choice should you need it.
So good.
Love it.
I just want to say, I love you guys. Thank you so much for coming on today. I know that, a lot of people are going to benefit from hearing this today. And so I just wish you all the best. I can't wait to continue to watch you rise. And thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having us, Amy. It's been so great.
So much fun.
Love you guys. Okay, so if you are listening, remember to be kind, rewind. Thank you for the honor of your time. Take what you like and leave the rest behind.
Thank you so much for listening to Eternally Amy. Amy Liz Harrison is a best-selling author, speaker, 12-step coach, meditation teacher, and recovery advocate. To find out more, please visit amylizharrison.com. Keep up with Amy on all platforms by following @AmyLizHarrison. Please subscribe and review this podcast. It means so much to us if you do.